Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and at www.permanentrecordpodcast.com.
Blue Zone Podcast Network presents Permanent Record, an in-depth look at the classic albums of the 70s and 80s. Albums which have earned a permanent place of honor both in our hearts and in our record collections.
Thanks, Jimmy K. Appreciate the introduction. Hey, everybody. We are back. It's supposed to be a Duran Duran week. I'm not sure that's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think so.
My name is Brian, of course, across from the table here.
Hi, I'm Sarah.
We have Sarah, and here to my left, Sarah, to your right, old friend of the show. He's been here many times before. We talked about The Cure with him, The Human League, and a mixtape episode last summer.
That's right.
You know him, I know him, we all love him. It's my friend Colby Zell. Colby, how's it going?
It's going pretty well. Always glad to bring in the summer again with another mixtape.
That's right.
Yeah.
You have your nice summer shirt on.
Nice summer shirt.
Beautiful summer weather outside today, which is not the truth. Last summer, we did a mixtape episode where we just talked about a bunch of different songs and different bands. It seemed to go over pretty well. I thought it was entertaining to listen to. We got some nice feedback, and people asked for us to do some more.
Yes, it's true.
So this is mixtape for the summer of 2018.
Yes.
Last year's episode was such a success, universal in the universal opinion,
universally,
that we were like, how can we make this year's episode even better?
What could we do to improve upon it?
And I came up with one idea, and that would be, over the course of the show, many times you've heard us mention a podcast called The Hustle.
Yes, yes.
With our friend John Lamoureux and how we learned something or other on his show. We had a chance to actually do something with John Lamoureux, and he is not here with us in person, but he is with us here in spirit via Skype. John, can you hear us?
I can. Hi, everybody.
Hey,
John. Thanks for calling in.
You bet. Thanks for inviting me. I'm honored.
This is going to be a real treat. John, of course, is the host of, like I said, the Hustle podcast, and he has almost 200 episodes available right now. I know that his current episode isn't really number 200, but you've done a bunch of like bonus episodes. In fact, you just put one out within the last day or two that deals with a Bowie documentary.
That's right. Yeah, I think overall we've done about 200. We put a new episode out every Tuesday. I tell people the focus of the podcast is to learn about the emotional, psychological, and financial impact of brief rock stardom. So, for instance, if you've gone from nothing to having a hit in 1984 and then kind of back to nothing again, how does that feel? How did the transitions in your life, how do you look back at them now? And I will say that was kind of the original idea of the podcast, and it still is, but we've been really lucky in that we're starting to talk to more and more people who have had long careers in music. And I try to do both. Because the story I really want to tell is still that guy who put out one album in 1977 and then never had another crack at it. You know, how does that guy feel? But it's also fun to interview Terrence Trent D'Arby and John Oates from Hall & Oates and people like that, you know?
Right,
so
and those were two
I'll
guys.
talk to anybody.
Those were two guys that you just talked to this past year. John Oates was in January, I think. Mm-hmm. And Terrence Trent D'Arby, who does not go by that name anymore, was just last week.
No, he sure doesn't. He has a new name. And a new life, and that was a very exhausting interview.
Oh, no.
and it was actually one of your shorter episodes.
Yes, I couldn't deal with it. We couldn't keep going.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
I actually felt bad for you because you have said many times over the years that he is someone you really wanted to talk to. And then, like, as the first hour of the show was wrapping up, to hear you say, like, well, I'm going to let you go. I was like, he's not enjoying this. And he's wanted this interview for like 3 years.
Oh, that's not a good thing.
He's an interesting guy, and he uses millions of big words to describe very simple things that other people can say very clearly. And he wasn't going to go where I wanted to go. And when I realized that I had said about all I could, and I put up with all I could put up with, I just decided to cut this off.
Oh, man.
So that sounds terrible. I am so glad that I got a chance to talk to him, and I really hope that we could make it more lighthearted about his music and his career, but he's just not built that way.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So
it was never like uncomfortable to listen. Like as a listener, it was never uncomfortable, or it never felt like you weren't having a good time. But you know, he did talk about some crazy things.
Yeah. And like he made a claim at one point that there had been threats made on his life several times.
Yeah.
And I wanted to follow up on that, but if I did, we would just go down some rabbit hole for another half hour that probably wouldn't even answer the question very clearly anyway, you know? And you realize you're just stuck in these situations. So I left all this interesting stuff kind of dangling in the air because I thought, if I press on that, we'll be here for days.
Wow.
And then Jan's got to edit all that.
Yes, my buddy Jan, Jan Makevich, he lives in Scotland. We've known each other for a long time. He is far more tech savvy than I am. So he really gets off on being the producer and putting everything together and making it sound great. And I get to do the interviews.
That sounds like a pretty good trade-off.
Yeah, works for me.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a quick question before we get started, just because I've always been curious about this. Just for you personally, maybe it has never been scary to you to talk to these musicians, but assuming that it was, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, was it scarier in the beginning when you were getting smaller name groups like Pseudo Echo and Blue Zoo and stuff? Was it scarier in the beginning to reach out and start talking to these people, or is it scarier to talk to like John Oates, who is a bigger star, but now you have like 4 years experience doing this, 3 or 4 years? Which one is more daunting?
Yeah, I got to be honest, it's never been that daunting.
Really?
Yeah, it never really has. The only times I ever get really nervous are if I feel that I haven't found a good enough hook to go to work off of with who I'm talking to. You know, I've been a Hall & Oates fan my whole life. I could have talked to John Oates for hours. The hard part was I only got about a half hour, 40 minutes out of him. Mm-hmm. I do worry sometimes. I get told that I'm better at it than I was when we first started, but I worry sometimes that the enthusiasm or the passion has gotten weaker just because it's not as exciting anymore. The first little while, the lead singer of, I don't know, Reflex,
Yeah.
who we're going to talk about in a minute, is on the other end of the phone, and you're just dying. I cannot believe I'm talking to this guy. Well, I've done, after 200 tries, that enthusiasm gets a little less. But no, the only times I'm ever nervous is if I feel like I haven't found enough interesting things to help an audience discover about this person.
Okay. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
It's a good for you, because that means you are comfortable doing what you do. And that must be why you do it so well and have done it for so long.
Well, thank you. And the other thing, and I've said this before on my own show, that being nervous doesn't help anybody. You're getting this person to come on. They didn't come to me. They didn't ask to be on my show. I went to them. And I'm just some little podcast. I need them to believe that they are dealing with a professional. And so when the interview starts, I could either be fumbling and mumbling and nervous and, Chris Farley on a Paul McCartney sketch, or I could lead them to believe they're dealing with a professional, and I have to make them believe that. And so you can either step up in that experience or you can fail, and I choose to step up. I hope that made sense, I don't
very much,
them to-
Absolutely.
Yeah, being nervous doesn't help anyone.
That's a good point. Final question. Did you send Jenya Raven a picture of your belly button?
Now that must be an inside question, because I do not know what that is.
You don't have to answer that.
Oh, I didn't.
I didn't think you did.
And believe me, no one on earth wants that picture. She never sent me a picture of her belly button either, but thankfully, if you Google image, there are things out there. There are
they're out
other
there.
pre-existing photos. Oh, that is so hilarious that you would ask me that question of all things. I love it.
All right, so we got the 4 music warriors here. Why don't we jump into compiling this year's summer mixtape, guys?
Oh,
Sounds
all
like a
right.
plan.
All right, so I'm going to go
right.
first. Oh, no, Sarah's going to go first, because I've already talked enough.
Oh, all right.
So, Sarah, why don't you give us a little introduction and make
Okay.
it obvious when I should hit the song, and I'll hit it when
All right. Last year we did a mixtape, and as we were preparing for it, we were going to get out the CDs or the albums or whatever we had of the songs that we were choosing, and you thought you knew what I was going to pick, and you
Yes.
pulled out this particular CD, and
Yep.
I said, you know what? I changed my mind at the last minute. Good thing I did, because picking it for this year's mixtape worked out much better, because I got some inside information from Jean Lamoureux's podcast about
What?
the lead singer.
Nice.
So it was good that I waited to choose The Politics of Dancing by Reflex.
Things happen for a reason.
Spreading station to station, like an infection across the nation. Well, you know you can't stop it when they start to play. You gotta get out the way. The politics of dancing, the politics of ooh, feeling good, the politics of moving. Oh, with this message in the sky.
Oh, I love that song.
That song's amazing.
And I think that is actually a wonderful way to kick off a mixtape. You know, we talked last year about starting strong. I'm pretty sure that's a strong start to a mixtape.
I think so.
Absolutely.
I like that one.
You do? Well, thanks.
The funny thing about starting a mixtape with this song is, until I have no recollection of this song from when it was actually out. I had no knowledge of this band. The only reason I learned about this band is because of a Mix 80s compilation CD that you purchased.
That's right.
At some point right after we got married or before.
Yeah.
That was a band I'd never heard of, and I loved this song.
Yeah, and that's how I discovered it as well. Let's talk about the past, though, and when it was out for real in the real world. First of all, I got to say, Wikipedia is not always right.
Oh, yeah. That's true.
And
Shocker.
Neither is the rest of the internet, but specifically Wikipedia. And that's usually my go-to place for the first source of research, just because it's the easiest place to find stuff. Well, it tells me that the single for The Politics of Dancing from the album of the same name was released in February of 1983. But when I look at the chart history, that makes absolutely no sense because it peaked on both the British and American charts in early 1984. So I'm pretty sure it was released in late 1983 in both the UK and maybe the US, maybe a little later in the US. The album itself came out in November of 1983. Now, I know sometimes singles precede albums, but this did not precede it by an entire year. So
Fair enough.
yeah. So this song did really well on both the British and American charts. It got to number 28 on the UK single charts and number 24 on the Billboard Hot 100. It did even better on the Billboard Hot Dance Club Play chart, where it got to number 8.
Nice.
Yeah, and it did well in other countries too. The best position outside of those two countries was in Canada, where it got to number 9. And the Aussies and the Kiwis really liked it too. They got to number 12 in Australia and in New Zealand.
Do you actually remember hearing the song on the radio?
I actually do. Yeah.
Do you? I do not.
As a matter of fact, I recall dancing to it.
Oh my gosh, where?
At a church camp. We had this really awkward dance where like all the guys were on one side and all the girls were on the other, and nobody was really dancing until everybody just started moving around a little bit. It wasn't dancing is pretty much an exaggeration of what was happening, but yeah.
Oh, that's cool. So
And John, do you have a memory of this being released back in '83? This is a single you were aware of?
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of my all-time favorite songs.
I'm out of the loop.
Yeah, I remember it very clearly from when I was a kid. The thing that I've always thought about this song is that it was a hit, but it wasn't such a ubiquitous hit that you grew tired of it. It was always welcome whenever it would come on the radio, which wasn't often enough, being a number 24 hit or whatever.
Right.
yeah.
So it never reached that status of being overplayed or you getting sick of it. I have said, and I told the lead singer Baxter when I had him on my show, that if I were ever invited to be on BBC's Desert Island Discs, this would be one of the songs that I would bring, because to me, it encapsulates the very best of what 80s music had to offer at the time. The mixture of I'm sorry if I'm stealing your thunder here, Sarah.
Oh, not at all. No.
The way that it's incorporating the synthesizers with the guitars, with the big drum beats, all the hallmarks of 80s music are coming together in this fantastic, epic sounding single. It's a masterpiece.
I like your enthusiasm for it.
Yeah. And I agree with you on a lot of those points. I don't know if I would go so far as to call it a masterpiece. I love it. I think it's a fantastic song, and I think it does really showcase those elements of 80s music that you discussed. They do a great job of mixing the synths and the guitars, which, it's a lot of times it's either one or the other.
Right.
And this is a wonderful combination.
I really like the sound of that guitar. I like how it's not just like power chording its way through the song or something. It has a very nice sound. And it's playing riffs that you could play on a keyboard, but they're just playing them on a guitar.
Right.
Instead, it sounds really good.
There's a little type of a solo in the bridge.
A little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. So the song was written by the keyboard player, backing vocalist, and band co-founder, Paul Fishman. And as I mentioned, it's from the debut album of the same name. This album was produced by John Punter.
He was, and I think he is best known for working with Brian Ferry or Roxy Music or something.
Yeah, both them,
Both?
and Japan, and Slade, and Procol Harum, and the 1984 album by Pseudo Echo titled Autumnal Park.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
But he is
another
not.
former guest.
Yeah,
Yep,
okay.
yep.
Yeah, and I know that Brian is a big Pseudo Echo fan. I don't know that he knows their 1984 album, but you might want to check it out now that you know that it was produced by the same guy.
I think some of those songs from that album were put on the American release of Love and Adventure,
Okay.
I think.
Well, John Punter is not doing music anymore. He is actually retired from music, and he's running a bar in Canada.
Well,
Just
Interesting.
Just a fun fact.
Yeah.
So we talk a lot about producers and, like, oh, what are they doing now? Well, he's not doing anything with music. He probably plays it in his bar.
And the same might be said of the Reflex, unfortunately.
Well, that's not exactly true.
They have an online presence.
Well, they do.
Nice website.
Yeah. But members of the band are still doing things, as I learned from listening to John's podcast and his discussion with Baxter.
Yeah, I'll give you my opinion about that if you want to hear it.
Well, of course.
Okay. It sounded to me when I interviewed Baxter, and keep in mind this was 3 years ago.
Yeah, this was one of your very early podcasts, one of your early episodes.
He implied that he's sort of a behind-the-scenes guy. Like a record label will hire him to sort of mentor or work with young artists to write songs or arrange or whatever. And that might be true. Something I have found as sort of a thread that goes through many of my interviews is that there are a lot of men who were once rock stars who probably are not all that gainfully employed anymore, but their wives are, and their wives pay the bills. Their wives probably thought they were marrying a rock star and it was going to be exciting forever. And in some cases, not everybody has that many marketable skills beyond doing music. I think about musicians as being similar to athletes in that they work so hard growing up to be really good at what they do, and then they make the pros, and then maybe they're surrounded by hundreds of other people who are better than them, and their moment in the sun lasts one season, and then they got to figure out what to do with the rest of their lives.
That's a really good analogy.
Yeah, and I think that Baxter falls into that. I'm not saying that he's a bum or anything like that. I just don't know that it's the kind of thing where he has a job to do every single day. I think he might be there if someone needs him. I think he probably has a wife who is the primary breadwinner in his family, and I think he probably tinkers. I know he works on some new music because he sent it to me, but is he gainfully employed? I don't know.
Okay.
That's a little bit unfortunate. I understand your analogy, and I see that being true with a lot of bands. Like I have listened to Pseudo Echo albums other than Love and Adventure. I think there was one called Race that was like their next album, and I thought that was really, really lackluster. And I'm not sure that like Pseudo Echo, for instance, had what it takes to compete with these other better bands like you mentioned. But because of the Reflex making their entire catalog available themselves, you can now hear like the 2 albums that they recorded as follow-ups to the Politics of Dancing, which I don't think ever got released. I think for their second album, a single got released. And I think for the third album, nothing ever saw the light of day. And both those albums are really, really good, I think. Especially the third one, Jamming the Broadcast. I think that's almost as good as Politics of Dancing. It sort of peters out near the end a little bit. But I'm not saying they would have been major stars like the Thompson Twins or something. But I sort of think they could have been, throughout the 80s, they could have ended up having maybe like the career quality of like Howard Jones.
Yeah,
like one hit off of each album. I don't know. I just think they were a little better than what they had a chance to prove. Because it seemed from what Baxter was saying, they had a lot of trouble with the label. They got screwed over a couple times.
Yeah.
And that's true for probably 75% of the people that I talk to. It's something out of their control, some label issue that affects them that they had nothing to do with.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a shame. But thanks to your podcast, we got to find out that all this stuff was available again, because we had always heard rumors of a second album. We wondered where was it, and how, but then we found, it's out there.
We used to go to record shows and ask about it.
Yeah, we did.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And people would say like, I remember seeing a single. And one guy claimed he remembered seeing the album, but I think it turned out he couldn't have.
No.
But so that was awesome.
So it was
that was one of my Christmas presents this past year, and it arrived on Christmas Eve because
beautiful.
Sarah got it from the website after hearing about it on your show.
Yep. So
That's
thank
great.
you, John. I was
You're
the
welcome.
big hero.
That's so good for my ego. Yeah. Great. Now, speaking of, and again, sorry if I'm totally bum rushing your moment here, Sarah, but speaking of when it was written and when it came out, I really think the possible connection to the movie Footloose is very interesting in relation to the history or story of this song.
Oh yeah, you talked about that. It seemed like
I didn't know if you were going to talk about it.
No, I
will.
wasn't. No, I was trying not to talk too much about the show because I want people to go and seek it out. I kind of want to tease it, If you're willing to talk about it and kind of give some of that away, that's up to you. I was kind of letting it up to. Well, you should listen to this on The Hustle. I can get the whole story.
Yeah.
That was my thought.
Well, thank you. I'm fine doing it because I think this is really important. So there were rumors that I had always heard that this song was originally written for the movie Footloose. And if anyone has, we've all seen that movie. I don't know how well everyone remembers it. I've seen it a million times. The scene where where the girls after church, Ariel does that thing where she's standing between the two cars. and they end up at the drive-in, like Tasty Freeze type place. And she puts a song in the boom box that everyone starts, of course, dancing to. That song is Dancing in the Sheets by Shalimar.
Oh, man.
Oh, okay.
Well, originally, supposedly, they had asked Reflex, and this song, Politics of Dancing, was meant to have been played in that scene. Now, I asked Baxter that, and he denied it. If you listen to both of those songs next to one another, I'm not a musician, so I don't know what the technical terms for all these things are, but they have a very similar beat structure. They sound very similar. Someone probably went to both of them and said, can you write a song in whatever time, with these accoutrements for this scene that we're doing? And now he denied that. But in a later email to me, he intimated that he was either lying or kidding, and that they did, but he wasn't at liberty to tell me the full story. So I could be misreading that. This song was likely written for the Footloose soundtrack and meant to be played during that scene.
That would have been huge for them.
Yeah.
That album sold so many copies.
Yeah,
Agreed.
it was huge.
And I might have actually watched that movie during that time because the Shalimar song was horrible in my opinion.
Oh, I love that song.
Oh,
Don't
man.
like it at all.
It's so cheesy. Oh, man. Compared to this song, which is not cheesy, I like this song. I think it's kind of like a pseudo-intellectual as far as the lyrical content. Because, they're talking about politics and politicians. And so you think, oh, well, it's serious topics. And it's kind of not really.
Right.
Well, you know what? They may not have made it onto Footloose, but at least the movie company, or whatever you want to say, the studio, gave them a chance to have a song on the soundtrack for the movie Breakin'.
Yes.
And then the most unkind thing of all, they said, hey, we're going to use 2 of your songs in Superman 4, which is one of the worst movies ever made. And then they cut them out.
Oh, too bad. They didn't get to be associated with that movie, Jem.
Nope.
What a shame.
Too bad.
Yep.
Yeah.
We could have seen Christopher Reeve fighting the nuclear man on the surface of the moon to the tune of Jamming the Broadcast.
I still have never seen that movie.
You never saw Superman 4?
No. And I don't really think my life is any poorer for it.
Your life is richer for not seeing it, but you should see it.
Oh, man. Well, do you want to talk about the music some more, or would you like to move on to the video?
Let's move on to the video.
We could all move on to the video. Yeah, it starts off with a message on the screen. Meanwhile, the airwaves are humming with the sound of Reflex Radio, who are transmitting from a secret hideout in the heart of the metropolis. From far and wide, the forces of evil are gathering, their mission to seek out and destroy. The story continues.
Yep, this put me in mind of Styx's 1983 Effort Kilroy Was Here, which was like a dystopian future where rock and roll was outlawed and they had a broadcast from secret places. As soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, this is just like Styx, Mr. Roboto.
Yeah, and in a way, I guess it is. Then it cuts into the video, and there's images of people posting signs on buildings and walls, and the phrase "Reflex Radio" is on them, and
which the band actually did in real life to promote to promote themselves.
Thank you. Yes, they would go and they would spray graffiti, and they'd put posters and signs up all over London, especially at record company headquarters, because they were trying to build hype about the band. And of course, back then there was no internet, and they were just trying to be creative. So that was what they did. I don't know that it got them a lot of fans with the record company executives being, vandalizing their buildings, but eventually it worked out for them. So in the video, as this one guy, or there's maybe several people posting these signs up on posters, then there's this mysterious man in Ray-Bans, and he keeps going around and taking down the posters, undoing the work that he's doing. It's kind of funny. I like that guy. But there's a lot of different things going on in this video. And one of my favorite things is the roller skaters.
Oh, yeah, that's a great addition to any early 80s video.
Yeah.
Always makes me think of Xanadu.
Classic.
Yeah, they're just, they're coming down the sidewalk, and then they're going in circles, and then they're going backwards. And it's just, oh, man, it's just tremendous. And then we get some shots of this DJ, I put that in quotes, who has glasses and a mustache. And
yes.
He is sometimes shown singing the song, and that's sort of a bit of a clue, because he's also the man pictured on the Reflex Radio posters that are being put up throughout the city. And in the end, they show a still image of him, and they remove the glasses, and they remove the mustache, and they change his hair. Oh, it's Baxter!
Yep. And for many, many years, even though I liked the Reflex, I sort of thought they looked lame, because my memories of this video, I saw this video like in the 90s, I guess, after YouTube came around, so whenever that was. But I seem to have forgotten about the end of it. And so the guy who is the DJ with the big mustache and stuff, in my memory, he was the lead singer of the Reflex. That's how the guy looked like.
That's just how he always
and
looked.
So even when I would listen to the album, I would feel a little guilty to myself, like, the guy in this group looks so terrible. But this week, I watched it again and I was like, oh, I missed that at the end.
The big reveal.
It's him in disguise. He doesn't. So I was actually relieved.
Yeah, because he's much cooler looking. He's got the spiky blonde tipped hair and everything, just what you would expect for a guy of that time.
Because when I was listening to John's episode with Baxter, I was picturing, because I hadn't seen them yet, the box set, I pictured a guy with a big, huge mustache that you were talking to.
Yeah, because he hasn't changed at all. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so that's funny. Another great thing about the video is the one guy, I guess it might be Paul Fishman, I'm not sure.
He's the keyboardist?
Yeah, so he's the one that has the keyboards like on either side of him, and then there's one in front of him, and then sometimes he's playing keyboards with each hand, which is like super great. He's playing the right one with his right hand and the left one with his left hand, and oh my gosh, he must be really talented. So it's very impressive.
Him and Paul Schaefer.
Yeah,
yep,
exactly.
That's right.
Yeah, so I think it's a super fun 80s video. It has a bit of a story to it, kind of, and it looks very 80s, of course, but it's pretty good. It's not. I don't think they should be terribly embarrassed about it.
You missed the best part of that video.
What was that?
Well, tell me.
The attractive women moving figures around on that very important board of strategy.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I did forget that part. Yeah, you want to talk some more about that?
Well, that's really the only thing. Like I was just reviewing that video, and I was like, oh, I remember these chicks moving these things around, having no idea what they could possibly be doing.
Well,
but it looks really important.
It's visually representing how the broadcast is spreading from station to station. They're spreading the word.
Nice Bowie reference right there, by the way.
Yeah, well, is
station
it?
to station.
Is it? Baxter wasn't sure.
It was.
I'm sure it must have been.
I thought so.
It's one of those things you probably didn't even think you were doing, but you were.
Aren't you a big Level 42 fan, John?
I am, yeah. I love Level 42. And their frontman, Mark King, was in a very early version of Reflex, which I didn't know. I thought it was fascinating.
Yeah, this band had a little bit of a Spinal Tap thing going on where they had a whole bunch of drummers in a pretty short period of time. Luckily, they didn't lose the drummers under like really bad and mysterious circumstances like a Spinal Tap. But yeah, two of the drummers were actually Phil Gold and Mark King, who went on to be in Level 42. Of course, Mark King decided not to play drums anymore. Well, I think he sold his drum kit, so then he couldn't play drums, and so became the bass player instead.
That's right.
And Phil Gold was the drummer.
Very true.
Yep.
Well, that's the first song for the mixtape, I think. And we're going to move on to song number 2, which everyone will be very happy to hear is my choice. So that means, of course, we've got to go back into the world of Mr. Vincent Clarke for a song called Never Never by a group called The Assembly. Here's a little sample.
And it ends up the same. I know the story, got it all worked out. Never happens to me, it never happens to me. It's the way my life was meant to be. It never happens to me, it never happens to me. Love's just a door that's locked and there's no key. It never happens to me.
So that song was released the very last day of October in 1983, and it peaked at number 2 in Sweden, number 4 in the UK and Norway, number 5 in Switzerland, number 6 in Ireland, and of course, made no chart progress here in the United States. Poor Vince.
He couldn't catch a break.
So did anybody remember this song from back in the day?
No.
I vaguely remember it.
Do you?
But that's as best as I can say, is that it's not unfamiliar to me.
Okay.
No, I did not, but it also put me to sleep, and so I might, I may be misremembering because I couldn't get through the entire song without dozing off.
I love how you are just brutally honest from the get-go. Wonderful.
Now, of course, my goal in my life is to talk about every single Depeche Mode song in a podcast and to talk about every single Vince Clarke song in a podcast. And The Assembly was so short-lived that's why I wanted to talk about this here on the mixtape. So The Assembly was actually two people.
Yes.
Two people that I think we all know and love, Mr. Vincent Clarke from Erasure, Yaz, and Depeche Mode.
Right.
And Eric Radcliffe.
Yes.
Who is E.C. Radcliffe, who is the guy that Yaz was upstairs at Eric's. It was his place.
Right.
So he was an engineer / producer who worked with Vince on developing his sound early in Vince's career, and Vince and him really liked working together. So the plan was The Assembly was going to be these two guys in the studio writing songs and then get a different singer for each track.
Right. It was almost like an anthology in a way.
Sort of. So this was the first song they released, and the singer is an Irish singer named Feargal Sharkey.
Yeah.
Who was the lead singer of a pop punk band called the Undertones.
Right.
They had a big song called Teenage Kicks, which is not really the kind of music that I want to listen to, but they have another one
they're
called...
so good.
You like them?
Yeah, I love the Undertones, and his solo stuff is also really good, and you may like it more. It's less punky, more new wavy.
Yeah, I used to have one of his albums
Good Heart?
on cassette when I was growing up. I don't have it anymore. I think it had that song A Good Heart on it, which was a big #1 hit across Europe. So the Assembly, very little was really released under their name. Vince, at the same time, was also doing something that I think is interesting. He was involved with a record label called Reset Records that he founded with, again, Eric Radcliffe. A bunch of singles came off of that record label. Robert Marlowe, who was a friend of Vince's growing up, released 4 singles. He had a song that was kind of famous called The Face of Dorian Gray.
Smooth white skin, just like a shroud, is a subtle young savage with lips that yearn and eyes that make the canvas burn. The old man grows older, he curses the day. He's sorry he painted the face of Dorian Gray.
Oh, yeah.
And part of the thing that's really famous about that is that only singles came out in the 80s, and it wasn't until like in the late 90s that the album actually was released, long after the fact. Mm-hmm. And a few other bands, including one called Absolute, which I just discovered when we were doing our Erasure podcast with Andrew. They have a song called TV Glare.
But it's all a dream, mine you'll never be. To hold, to love, to kiss or see. Know that you'll never love me. Jump through the glass and set me free. I'll be watching you tonight. And I'll be watching you tonight.
Which is amazing.
I do not know that band or that song, but if you're saying it's amazing, I may have to check it out.
It is. I've been playing it in my car all week. So, why was there only one Assembly single?
Because they got bored.
They fell asleep? They fell asleep listening to their own song?
Yeah. Vince once again couldn't keep his attention span directed towards one project for a while.
That's kind of true. That is kind of true. Basically, at the end of this 1 year period, 83 into 84, Vince essentially admits defeat on the Assembly by placing the ad that eventually brings Andy Bell to him to form Erasure. But he said really the reason he lost interest in it was because he had a lot of difficulty finding singers. He said, people imagine because we're professional musicians, we're all hanging out with each other, and it's like a big happy family where we all know each other.
Well, and we talk about things like that on the podcast. Well, they know this guy, and this guy knew this person. And it does seem like that there's a lot of connections there. But I guess
Vince said, I really didn't know anybody else. And he said that a few people that he knew that were singers turned him down.
What?
And then a couple other ones had contractual issues. Their labels wouldn't let them appear on his song.
I believe that very much, that would be
That's something that I'm going to have to address again next week about Vince Clarke not knowing anybody because somebody begs to differ, but we'll get to that.
All right. Yeah, we'll see about that. He also could not get the producer he wanted. He seems very comfortable working with Daniel Miller. It seems like Vince early on in his career sort of wanted to stay in the atmosphere that he was already comfortable with. Like he always wanted to work in Blackwing Studios, which is really small.
The only studio he knew, so that was the studio.
He wanted to work again with Daniel Miller, but Daniel Miller was off working with Depeche Mode on Construction Time again.
Well, gee whiz.
So Vince couldn't get as much of his time as he would have liked. So he said, and this is a quote, "The result was that we spent a year in the studio hanging around writing songs, preparing for the Assembly album, which never materialized, and in the end, I was just sick of the studio. We started to do the next single, we couldn't get the right singer, so myself and Eric took our synths and went home. It was really a bad time. It was a year wasted, and it made me feel very lethargic because we hadn't actually got anything finished."
That might explain the song, John.
Yeah, possibly. Speaking of lethargy.
Well,
now, Brian, let me ask you, was Feargal not the lead singer of, did he not sing every track on it's just an EP, right? Isn't it just 4 songs?
It's only 2 songs. There's the single version of this song, an extended version, and then there's the B-side, and then an extended version of the B-side. And the B-side's just an instrumental.
Okay.
So he really didn't sing much.
So yeah, he only sang the one song. And if you thought this song was slow and boring, John, there is another song that came out in 84 and did absolutely nothing. Even in England, which loved Vince Clarke. It peaked at number 99.
Ooh.
And I'm pretty sure it was an assembly song that he just managed to scrape together, but it was released just under the name of Vince Clarke and Paul Quinn.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't call it the assembly.
I think you did mention that in maybe the Wonderland episode.
Maybe, yeah, I think I did.
Yeah.
It's called One Day, and that song is super slow and super boring.
Okay.
So, yeah,
So don't go listen to it unless you have insomnia.
So I think
will.
that's Vince realized at that point he needed a proper band for consistent labeling, and this kind of idea, a potpourri of things, is not going to work.
The early Vince cracks me up because he is just so stubborn and like upset with everything. Like he didn't want to be in Depeche Mode because
Nope.
he wanted to be in the studio. He didn't want to tour. He left Yazoo because he didn't want to tour with her,
Right.
and he wanted to be in the studio making music. So then he gets a year to do that, and he's like, you know what? I don't want to do this either. So he just sounds rather unsatisfied on all levels.
Very true. So the assembly, I have no recollection of it from the time. I learned about the assembly after 1985 when I got into Erasure with Wonderland. I looked for it everywhere because I didn't really even understand what it was. I didn't know if there was an album or what the story was. And I just happened to find it one day. I was at, like, with a lot of the albums that I love, I was with my grandmother.
Yes.
And I was at her mall, which had two great record stores. Joe Nardone's Gallery of Sound, which
yes.
always had Depeche Mode imports, and then another one, which was like a chain. But then in the center of the mall, there was a little kiosk, like these little stands that spring up that like sell sausage and stuff like that sometimes around Christmas. It was just this little stand, and he had records, and like in milk crates. And I was going through a milk crate, and he had the assembly, and it was for $1.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, I can't believe this is here. And you know what record was like 2 records past it that I also got that day?
I could never begin to guess.
No idea.
The Austrian Slickmeister Falco, his debut album, Einzelhaft.
Einzelhaft. Oh, did you pick that up at the same time?
Yep, I did.
Wonderful.
Score.
Yep, but it was a rough weekend because my grandmother didn't have a turntable, so I had to wait till we went back home to listen
So
to
you
it
just stared at the albums.
Your grandmother was ahead of the times.
by getting rid of her turntable. So the record's cool. The label is cool. It's very simple. It's just like a stylized A. It's all red and white. No pictures or anything, but it looks kind of cool. So I think it's a good song, regardless of what you guys say. I enjoy listening to it, but I think it's probably my least favorite of every other Vince Clarke single. I think I would probably put this at the very
Good.
end, except for maybe Erasure song Star.
Oh, you do hate that song.
I do hate that song.
Oh, I'd much rather listen to that than this.
Not me. Musically, if this had to appear on an album, if like someone said like what album of Vince's does this sound the most like,
Yeah.
I would say You and Me Both by Yaz.
Probably.
Okay.
Especially that keyboard solo in the middle section of the song.
Yeah, I can see that.
A lot of the guitar on here is sampled into the Fairlight keyboard and played note for note, which I think is neat. There is some real guitar, evidently. And here's the last thing I want to say about it. Feargal Sharkey's voice is kind of strange.
That might be an understatement.
Actually, when I was listening to this, it vaguely kind of reminds me of the character from Rocky Horror.
Oh, like the lips that sing the intro song?
Exactly. So it's the guy that wrote the Rocky Horror Show that
Richard
does
O'Brien.
that song. That's the name. I couldn't remember.
What
but
was the
yeah.
name?
Richard O'Brien.
Richard O'Brien.
There's
Okay.
something reedy like his voice.
I think he sounds like a Muppet. I've never liked his voice. I'm sorry. I don't like it. I never have. Never have, never will.
And then, John, you are a fan of his voice, just not in this song.
Yeah. I've tried to get him on my show, but he's purposely very off the grid. I've never been able to find him, and I've asked people who might know him, and they're like, "Oh, good luck. You probably won't ever find him."
Oh, really?
So yeah, he's pretty much disappeared. But
Crazy.
it's not. I understand. Yes, no one sounds like Feargal, and maybe that's a good thing for a lot of people. I don't think that it's the kind of voice that you can apply to every song, and it sounds great. It doesn't annoy me or anything, and I don't hate this song. This song is just pretty sleepy and unspecial, if that's a word. There's really nothing noteworthy or interesting or provocative about this song. I would never put it on repeat or anything like that.
Yeah, I definitely would not.
Okay.
Now, even though I said his voice is strange, I thought it was strange for many years, but I'm now very comfortable with it. I think he's a pretty good singer. I just don't think he's as good as Alison Moyet.
Yeah, but
very few people are as good as Alison Moyet.
But here's what I think is weird, and I'm probably the only one that thinks this, but the backing vocals kind of remind me of Alison Moyet.
No, I actually have a note on that.
Okay.
I think they sound very much like her.
Okay.
And I saw one article about the song that said Vince sang those background vocals, which I rarely have known Vince to sing.
He doesn't.
Just on the song, I think Happy People or something. But I then saw an interview with Mr. Sharkey, who he said that he was singing the background vocals, and that it was his idea to make the background vocals sound very deadpan and put that weird filter on it, because he thought it was funny that like the song is very pleading and emotional, and then the background vocals come on and just sound
the
like
way it has to be.
Yeah, very deadpan.
Oh,
So
okay.
according to him, that was him singing. Oftentimes, I think they sound a lot like
Yeah.
Alison Moyet.
Yeah.
I've talked for quite a bit, so I'm going to just briefly go through the video. There's not much to the video. It's 2 segments. One part I think is interesting, which is probably the smaller part. A lot of it is just the band acting moody,
Yes,
singing the
it's
song.
all very, very moody and angsty, and yes.
Black and white.
Yeah, and they're sort of like hanging around like a windmill.
Yeah, there's a windmill.
But you also see then some shots of like working class families who seem to have lots of children.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is true, but they seem to be in one of the quote modern cities that I read. When I read the book about Depeche Mode's early days, and when I read Bernard Sumner's book about his life, they talked about how after the Second World War, the big kick in England was to build these cities of the future, which was going to be within driving distance of London, and give families an opportunity to live in new buildings and raise families. But what they did was they built these very sterile glass and metal multi-stories. You don't have a house anymore. You live like in a
room in a big box.
Right. And it looks like these people have set up a trailer in front of buildings that look very much like that. And the music stars, Vince Clarke and E.C. Radcliffe and the singer, they're going around looking like gloomy skeletons. And but the part of the video that really impacted me was at the end. We see these families who have too many kids, I'm sure, for what they can afford, and they're living somewhere they don't want to live, and they look so frustrated. The mom and dad both are just grimacing, and the kids are sitting there being forced to pose for this picture, and the lyric says, "It never happens to me, it never happens to me. Maybe that's the way my life was meant to be." And I just felt, I'm watching this video just to do this silly podcast, and I was starting to actually feel emotional for these people who are probably actors. And I was like,
Wow.
oh, that's so sad. You could see the bitterness in their faces and the unhappiness in their faces as you hear that lyric. And I was like, yeah, there's not much to this video, but for this 10-second segment, well done. Well done.
You've really thought a lot about this video, far more than probably anyone ever has.
Yeah, maybe.
First of all, no one has stayed awake through the entire thing.
Poor Vince
Nor
Clarke.
thought about it so deeply.
I'm sure-
Vince Clarke,
That's what
but
never
this song.
happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one thing I have to say about the video, and in particular, Feargal, I knew he reminded me of somebody when I saw his face. I'm like, who does he look like? He looks like somebody. And I finally figured it out, and I showed Brian this morning. He said, oh my gosh, yes.
I agree.
He looks like Robin Colcord from Cheers, who is played by Roger Reese.
Yes. Oh
Wow.
my gosh.
And if you look, I'm telling you what, you go do a Google search on both of those gentlemen. I mean, you can't do it together. That didn't work. But do one and then the other, and you will say, oh my gosh, they were separated at birth. So
That is huge. I have been trying to think of the same thing for years. Who does Feargal
Yeah.
look like? And
Yeah.
that is it.
that's it.
Oh,
I
yes.
nailed it for you.
That's so funny.
Yeah. Now you
That
can
is-
sleep at night.
I can't. Well, and I'll put this song on. And well,
Oh, man.
Perfect.
Well, you know what? You old folks can sit around and make fun of the song, but me and the younger generation who grew to love this song from hearing it in Grand Theft Auto, Vice City Stories soundtrack album, we're going to continue to love the assembly. Me and the young kids. All right, so we're up to song number 3, and that, Colby, is your song.
Well, we're getting to the good stuff now. So, I kid. Sarah's song actually is good.
Thank you.
Oh, man.
My group is one that I think really should be a mark of shame for the Permanent Record podcast, that they haven't actually been talked about in terms of like an episode directed completely about how awesome they are. And
We're
I'm talking
actually
about-
running out of room for marks of shame here on the podcast.
And we're talking about Ultravox. The thing that's cool about Ultravox is that there's actually kind of 2 versions of them. The first version of Ultravox was in that strange period before New Wave. Punk was starting to get tired in England. The sound of the old Ultravox, headed by John Fox, was very guitar driven. There was a lot of fast paced stuff. And then out of the blue, John Fox decides he's done. He leaves. The main guitarist for the band decides he's done, takes off with some woman he was falling in love with. And this, by the way, was just something I heard on First Wave. They were interviewing Midge just this weekend. The band was pretty much done. They came back from a mini tour, and they had a note from the label that said that their services were no longer required.
Ouch.
And there was a guy that they knew, they had worked with a little bit from a band called Visage. Not the way I'd pronounce it, but that's the way he does. So they were famous for the track Fade to Gray, which apparently he got a lot from the Ultravox musicians to put that track together. So Midge gets together with them, and then they very quickly put music together and went out for their first album. But the second album, they had decided they were going to work very intensely. They got 3 months in a studio in Germany to work with Connie Plank, who is famous for working with bands like Kraftwerk. Suddenly my brain just shut off.
If you work with Kraftwerk, you don't really have to have anyone else in your resume, in my opinion. So you can leave it at that.
They spent 3 months kind of isolated working on this album. One of the biggest, in my mind, triumphs out of this was the song The Voice.
I've seen them once before. Someone cries to me. The look and the sound of the voice. They try. The shape and the power of the voice.
So that is The Voice. Midge talked about the fact that in 3 months working on that album, they didn't have a whole lot of contact. Probably one of the more interesting things that happened to them is that they just got bored at one point and went out dressed in World War II outfits in Germany and got really, really drunk. And like apparently nobody bothered them. They just thought that they were like actors or something. So,
Were they dressed as British soldiers?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So they were just looking for something to do. And
Yep.
Wow. Okay.
And so that all happened 80 to 81. Rage in Eden was the album. It got released in 81. The Voice was actually released in October of 1981, and it peaked at number 16 in the UK.
How'd it do in the U.S.?
Didn't.
And you wonder why we're not talking about them. Well, that's why. No, just kidding.
So the members in the band were Warren Cann, Billy Curry, Chris Cross, the 3 C's as I like to call them. And he's a drummer. And the thing that's interesting is that I never knew. I listened to Ultravox in the 80s. I thought they were a drum machine band, but they played with live drums. I didn't know. My exposure to Ultravox, like I didn't know about them back in the early 80s when they were successful in England, much like everybody else in America.
Yeah.
I came to know them from the album The Collection that was released in 84. So it was about 85 that I actually started to try to dig into the Ultravox stuff.
Is that one you stole from your sister?
Yep.
I remember that.
Yeah. So I liked all the stuff that was in that. It spanned pretty much exclusively the mid-Ure era of Ultravox. So there wasn't anything. I didn't even realize there was a whole another iteration of the band before that.
Yeah, I just learned about that a month ago.
Right.
In the 2 issues ago in Classic Pop magazine, they had a review for John Foxx's first solo album. It's being re-released as a 3-disc deluxe edition. And as I was reading the review, I was like, wait, there was a singer in Ultravox before Midge? I had no clue. And then this past week, somebody sent me a link to What Have I Got in My Bag, starring
From Amoeba
Gary
Records?
Newman, right?
Gary Newman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was in a record store, just kind of going through the record store, telling what albums he loved.
Yeah.
And he talked about Ultravox. He was a fan of the first version of Ultravox,
Right.
and less so of the second one. So in 1 month's time, this has come up 3 times for me now. And before then, I never knew this.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I mean, when you really listen to that first version compared to the mid-Ure stuff, it is night and day. They're nothing alike.
Crazy.
I think there's actually a third version of Ultravox too. So a couple of weeks ago, I went to a hair metal concert here in Denver. It was Enough Zenough opening for the Bullet Boys. And Enough Zenough is one of these, like, they're basically like a hard rock / power pop band from the late 80s, early 90s. Sounds similar to like Cheap Trick mixed with Poison or whatever, you know, kind of one of those hair metal bands, but a little poppier. Anyway, one of the members of the band was this really good looking guy with short hair, not the long hair that you normally see on the hair metal bands, and a beard, and he looked very handsome. And when he was being introduced, Enough Zenough lead singer Chip Zenough says, right. to my whatever, right, you know him from his time in Ultravox. And I thought, this guy was in Ultravox? That can't be. So I look, this is a little funny story. So I immediately go to Wikipedia on my phone at the concert and I look him up, and his name is Tony Fanelli, I believe. And he took over after Midge left and sang on only one album, which I have not heard, called Revelation, which came out in like 1992.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
He did some work with The System, Don't Disturb This Groove. I've had their main guy on my show. Anyway, I'm looking at I'm just like, I cannot believe that the guy in this hard rock band was also in Ultravox. I got to find him and get him on my podcast. I look up from I've been on the phone for like 4 or 5 minutes now trying to research this guy. I look up and a topless woman is being escorted off the stage. And so the entire time that I was on my phone, I could have been looking at a naked woman dancing with Enough's Enough, and I missed it.
That's dedication to your craft, sir.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Hey, you recently had the lead singer of the Bullet Boys on your show, and although I didn't know any of their songs and they're not really a band I would listen to, he was a really nice guy.
He was.
And did you get to meet him at the concert?
No, it's kind of annoying. So I know the guy who does the sound at the venue they played, and he put me on the guest list, thankfully. So I got in for free. And I told Mark, the lead singer of the Bullet Boys, a couple days ahead of time, I said, hey, I'm going to the show on Wednesday night. Can I poke my head in and say hello? And he or his wife, whoever, replied to the email saying, yeah, we'll put you on the VIP list. I got there and I was not on the VIP list. So I think he forgot or whatever. Thankfully, I already was getting in for free because of my friend. No, he was a nice guy. I think he doesn't seem like who's on his VIP list might be a big concern of his.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right. Sorry, Colby.
No worries. I mean,
we needed to talk some hair
just
metal.
had a riff.
Sorry. I just thought it was interesting that a guy would have been in both bands.
Yeah,
that is kind of crazy.
A weird combination. Before we talk about the video, can I tell you something about this song?
Please do.
I didn't know the song until you told me to go listen to it.
Okay.
Although I do have their greatest hits. And I basically only ever listen to like the same songs that you always hear on the radio. So I'm not sure why I bought the greatest hits if I'm not going to listen to the other tracks. So I listened to it, and this is a great song.
It is a great song.
And it almost has like a progressive rock feel to it to me. Like it doesn't sound like 80s pop.
So that's the Connie Plank influence there.
Okay.
Just backing up a moment when I'm responding to this. Trying to do research on Ultravox, I tried to join an Ultravox fan forum who never approved me. But when I was reading through a lot of back stuff, there were people that were talking about, Ultravox possibly waxing a little progressive, but that was actually the exact opposite of the intent of music as a whole at the time in England. Like progressive rock was something that people were trying to get away from,
right?
Which is why they were turning to keyboards in the first place and just sort of focusing on that synthesizer sound and trying to be more clean and more sterile and less progressive.
Yeah.
Connie Plank apparently was really, really into some of that progressive stuff. And so there's elements that sound like it. So it's kind of interesting you picked up on that.
Yeah, I think it's really obvious. Another thing that I thought is I'm hearing the sounds of music of 1981. The components of this song, almost every component sounds like 1981, but they're put together in a way that does not sound like 1981.
Right.
It sounds like nothing that I've heard from that era, from that year. It doesn't sound like Devo. It doesn't sound like Soft Cell. I mean, I may have those years wrong.
Connie worked with Devo. That's another.
Oh, did he? So I was really impressed by this tune.
That's even more interesting.
And I like this song better than some of the songs that I bought that greatest hits to have in my collection. I think this is a great song.
So the other thing that I was going to say earlier, and I totally forgot, when they finished that first album, the big, huge, resounding hit that everybody seemed to love was a song called Vienna. It still got some notoriety. Just recently, the Netflix show 13 Reasons Why, in a very, very climactic moment, it played that remix of the song Vienna.
Cool.
And at the time, this was a very new direction for Ultravox. This song Vienna's taken off in the airwaves and all this kind of stuff. And all the record companies from other countries want them to like make another Vienna. They like the Paris people wanted them. I mean, the French people wanted them to make Paris. There were Japanese record exec asking them to make a Tokyo. And they were like, the last thing in the world that band wanted to do was anything anybody asked them to do. And that's why they went off with this guy in Germany and to be sort of isolated from everything and just do exactly what they wanted to do. The things that I always come back to from Ultravox that I like the most are from this album.
Oh, okay.
I mean, there's other stuff that they did later in the 80s, but they only had really about a 6-year run before things started to fall apart. And part of that is because Midge Ure got tied up into the Band-Aid thing, like him and Bob Geldof are the ones that created it. He actually has taken responsibility for some of that falling apart. They actually got back together about 10 years ago. They did a little bit of touring and stuff like that, and then the old wounds came back and they fell apart again. Midge Ure's back on his own. But the interesting thing to me is that out of a 6-year run, they came up with kind of a massive thing in England and never once really took off here in the States over the 80s.
Right.
Colby, have you read Midge's book, If I Was?
So after you mentioned it, when we were kind of communicating a little bit before we got together, I went out and downloaded it. And I was scanning it specifically to try to find references to the voice. And that's where, I read about them getting drunk and getting in soldiers' uniforms and stuff like that. He's a very interesting guy.
I like him a lot. I read that book 5 or 6 years ago, so I don't remember it very well. But it is one of my very favorite rock autobiographies of anyone that I've ever read. And I like Midge Ure, and I'm an Ultravox fan. I'm not like a super fan, so this isn't a super fan trying to kind of convert you to something. This is just as someone who likes rock books, autobiographies specifically. It is so great, and the reason I love it is because he answers everything you would want to know.
Right.
He doesn't pull any punches. He's honest about everything. But one thing that was really interesting is near the end of that book, which was published, 15 years ago probably, he explains why he doesn't do 80s nostalgia shows.
Oh, really?
But now he does a lot of 80s nostalgia shows.
That's right.
Which is great. I mean, I love those things. I understand why artists don't want to do them, but I'm grateful that he does. He's going to be here with Paul Young in a couple of months on a co-headlining tour. That's like heaven to me,
Yeah, he actually just last year released an album called Orchestrated where he got together with a
symphony.
There we go. The words are not coming out of my mouth today. But he redid a lot of his Ultravox songs. I listened to a couple of them. They are really, really well done.
Are they?
Yeah.
John, you said you saw him on Retro Futura, right, with Tom Bailey and Howard Jones?
Yes, and that was actually really annoying because if I remember correctly, he sang 3 songs, I think.
He sang 5 when we saw him.
Yeah.
Maybe it was 5. I thought it was 3. Either way, when you saw him, was he... And I saw him again on another tour where he did this. He was like, everything was through the electric guitar. Like he was really heavy rock-ish. It wasn't...
I don't recall that.
Really? So when I saw him, I took my brother and brother-in-law, and neither of them knew who he was. And I was like, oh, you'll know like all these songs, no problem. But he performed them with like heavy, heavy metal guitars.
Wow.
Yeah. And he did another tour. I think I've seen him twice now, where once it was him acoustic, once it was him electric, and then I think he did another one that was called like electronic, where it was him doing it through the synthesizers. Anyway, it felt almost like he was trying to prove what a great musician he is, and he is, but that isn't how you want to hear those songs.
Right. Yeah.
I was struck when we saw him, like he wasn't all heavy metalish when we saw him on Retro Futura. He came out after Katrina and the Waves and China Crisis.
Yeah.
And I was struck by the night and day quality. I would like, this man is a rock star. Like he walked on stage and he commanded the place. Like you saw basically 2 bar bands before him. Yep. And it was amazing. Like his presence was amazing. His stage presence.
There was a palpable difference in the room as he took the stage. It was really very impressive and very cool to see. We're used to either seeing one or the other. You don't see that transition happening as you're seeing multiple acts. It's either you're going to see somebody awesome, or you're going to see somebody that's so-so. And to see the difference in one night is really cool.
Well, I think that in order for a person to come in, like apparently when he came into Ultravox, he had some success with another band, but he was
in Thin Lizzy.
He was extremely minor. His success was extremely minor in his mind compared to the band he was joining. And yet he totally transformed them. I mean, all of those guys that are in that band, very, very excellent musicians in their own right. But like the direction that they went in obviously took a very big departure. Yep. Maybe some of that was their own inclination as well. But I mean, he had a major part in that. And that's difficult. Can you imagine going into a group of people that are established and considered to be big boys in the block compared to you, and yet your influence on them totally transforms them? I mean, that's when he was young. So,
right.
In any case, does anybody have anything that they wanted to talk about this song before I talk about the video?
I'll just mention that's interesting that there's an orchestral album of a lot of these songs because I think just hearing this song, it easily lends itself to an orchestral version because it's just so atmospheric and soaring. The keyboards that are kind of like strings, you know, coming over the top. It's very grand.
Yeah.
So
Good word.
Yeah, I really, really like that sound, and it is a very Ultravox-y sound to me.
Yeah.
You hear that in their other songs, but yeah, I can see why you'd want to just convert it to kind of organic instruments.
And one of the major songwriters in Ultravox, Billy Currie, was a violinist. Like, he was a very, very, very sort of pushed towards strings. So the fact that he wrote stuff that kind of lends itself that way is not really much of a surprise. I definitely like the stuff that got converted in the orchestrated album. In any case, the video, I mentioned when we were just sort of talking about different videos, I think you said you had one with 2 videos, or...
Oh, no, that's John.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, this one has 1.5 because one of the things that's on YouTube is a really terribly shot video because they apparently last minute got on a German variety show. I think it was called Bananas Musica. It's them. It almost looks like they're in soldier uniforms.
Okay.
On this strange slanted stage. And I almost think that maybe it's kind of a sort of joke about the time that they got plastered when they were recording it. But in any case, it's just them over and over again walking into this room that's sort of slanted and taking poses and singing along to the song, and it's awful. And a lot of people thought that was the actual video because that's what's on YouTube, and it's like, no, they actually did have some production value in the real video.
I think I might have seen that one in the results, but the one I watched was not that one.
Right.
That's what I watched first because I said that to you
That's
yesterday.
the only one I saw, them standing slanted. In fact, I thought, oh, isn't this cute? These guys have found some fun little trick, like the Lionel Richie dancing on the ceiling video.
Yep.
Except it didn't move.
Yeah, so let's just exploit this one trick for the full 4 minutes of the song and just keep people wondering what's really going on here.
Right.
I thought, oh, that's cute and innocent. You know, how innocent we all were back then.
No, the actual video is all, big, huge, heavy words coming across the screen and fire and lots of people in sort of flash mob type moves. And
Yeah.
It's an expensive looking video.
Yeah.
It had to cost
and
some
it
money.
looks like it has a plot.
Yeah, I have no idea what it is, but there's something going on there.
It seems like, at least at one point in the time, the character Majora is playing is like convicted, or he's being put on trial.
Right.
And there are all these different forces that are leading him to end up where he is. And I think that's what the big words are that are coming across the screen, because we see the press, we see the people, we see command. I think it was, or something like that. But there's like a part where he's on, it's a silhouette, and he's like, someone's like pointing at him, and it looks like maybe he's on trial and he's being sentenced. And then eventually we see him in an electric chair, right? No, that's the wrong video. Never mind.
Did you? That's a different video.
Never mind.
Now, did you guys realize that the video that Colby sent us to watch is backwards?
Was it?
Yeah. The link that you sent for this real production heavy, nice video.
Right.
Yeah.
For some reason, the label made them remove it. So a fan took it and ran the video in reverse and put the audio in over top of it. And for some reason, that made it so the copyright holders software didn't find it.
Oh, wow.
Huh.
So I found it on, what's the other video site? Vimeo or something?
Yeah.
I found it there and watched it, because when you're watching it, nobody is lip syncing. Like, people are moving their mouths, but it never goes with the lyrics. So it was bugging me.
Oh.
So then I watched it on this other site, and it goes the complete reverse way, and all the words go with the mouths and stuff, and the story goes back, like, he's on trial first, and then he sort of seems to be sentenced to join the army.
Oh, is that? Oh, that makes a lot more sense. 'Cause-
It was weird.
Yeah.
I don't know what, you're still running the audio the right way. It seems
Right.
like a music copyright holder software would search for music, not a video. But the people in the comment section claim that this is the only way to have it on YouTube right now because of.
Well, it's weird because I think on the Ultravox Vivo site or whatever, like, there's only 2 minutes of the video, and then
Right.
it cuts off.
Yeah, for whatever reason, in the comments even state something like that. Like, why is there only 2 minutes? When I found that other one, and I found what I thought was the full version, I was only checking to see that the song was there. I wasn't even
Right.
looking. Huh.
Yep.
Well, I'm going to have to go look at the one on Vimeo because, that make the story make more sense.
It's still not much of a story.
Well, no.
But
Everywhere I was looking to, I love to get into the meanings of songs, and I always wanted one because this sounds so important.
Yeah, oh yeah.
This song sounds so important.
The lyrics are really poetic and
Right.
very, again, very grand,
And
really.
yet, it doesn't actually sort of land with anything specific. And I read on the forum that wouldn't let me join, that apparently Midge basically would write lyrics that would fit the general mood of music that was already written. Like, he didn't generally write lyrics and then make a song to fit it with the other guys. They put something together and said, this is going to be a song. And then Midge would go, maybe these words will fit. And apparently this was something that was established early on when they made Vienna. They had pretty much everything written. And then he was standing in a meeting with them and he goes, this means nothing to me. And
my God.
Wow.
and then later they were like, yeah, let's do something like that. And he came up with that, ridiculously powerful line. And that was apparently his thing. Like, he would just find little snippets that would just slide into songs depending on the way that the music felt. And it would work.
Huh.
Wow.
Awesome.
So we're on me, right? We're cleanly going.
This is the
directly to
last
me? Okay.
song
This is
on
the
the
last
first
song.
side of the mixtape.
Great. Okay. Yes. Well, I wanted to pick songs for this week and next week that I really like that are from bands that I probably will not ever have on my show. And I thought I would kick it off with "Girl from Ipanema Goes to Greenland" by the B-52's.
Girl's lost someone. Who is that someone? Please leave it. Girl, like Ipanema, goes to
Yeah, that comes off their 1986 album Bouncing Off the Satellites, which was released on September 8th, 1986. The album reached only number 85, and this song reached number 10 on Billboard's Hot Dance Club Play charts. The whole album was deemed sort of a failure upon its release, primarily because this was one of the last songs that was written and recorded by original guitarist Ricky Wilson before he died of AIDS. In between the time the song was recorded and the album was released, he died. And by the time that he died, the band's heart was just not in promoting the album. And it frankly is not one of their best albums anyway. And so
I saw that they pulled a lot of like solo material to try to fill it out to get it up to album length.
Exactly. It does have Summer of Love, which is a great track. It's not that bad. It's minor B-52's work. Apparently, which I did not know until researching this, Ricky had kept him having AIDS a secret from everyone in the band except guitarist Keith Strickland.
I can't understand that.
Me neither, especially when his sister Cindy is in the band and singing this song.
Yeah, I know.
How do you hide that?
Yeah.
From everything I've read a dozen books on Queen, and it seems like there would be no way you could hide it based on what they say about Freddie in the studio for like the innuendo sessions and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, you just couldn't work at the pace that you're used to. You have to take breaks, and things would just go wrong with like your body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so
All
strange.
the weight loss, potential
Right.
lesions, I don't know, hair loss, all of it.
Yeah.
I can't even comprehend that they could not have known that something was up.
Yeah. Especially, like you said, the sister. I mean, Cindy, how did she not know? And then to find out, yeah, no wonder they didn't tour for this. No wonder they didn't promote this album for a variety of reasons. That would have just been too hard.
Yeah, I read a quote from Keith Strickland. This is in the February 2002 issue of The Advocate magazine. He says, not only were they the last ones we wrote together, meaning the songs for this album, specifically this one, but I felt we had reached a new level in our writing. We were trying new things, and there was a maturity there. I will admit I am not a B-52's diehard in any way.
Okay.
I sort of have an issue with songs that feel like novelty songs,
Right.
Little tossed off fun things that aren't real, because I have a hard time finding the emotion in a song like that. And unfortunately, B-52's, being kind of the fun party band that they are, have a lot of songs that to me feel more like novelty songs than real songs. That's not always the case, Private Idaho, Rock Lobster, Channel Z, Girl from Ipanema. These are great tunes. There's no question that these guys are great at what they do. It's just it's not always for me,
I hear what you're saying. They're a band that I'm happy I have the greatest hits and I have Cosmic Thing, and that's sort of like all I feel that I need from the B-52's.
Yeah, I agree. That being said, I feel like, and I will stand by this, I think Cindy's vocal performance in this song is the greatest female vocal performance in alternative rock history.
Wow.
And I challenge anyone to present to me what they think would be a better female alternative rock vocal performance. I'm not talking Aretha Franklin here. I'm talking alternative music, specifically the 80s. What's better? I've never heard anything better. It's just soaring. And I think that this song is, we'll talk about the video in a minute, which couldn't be more B-52's than, but I just, I love every speck of this song. I love every instrument. I love where it's placed, how it's mixed, how it sounds, how it feels. It is one of the greatest alternative rock songs ever, in my opinion.
I have always thought that Kate was the better singer of the two girls in the B-52's, just based on like the few things when I saw them on Saturday Night Live, and Rome is like an awesome song. But I do think that her vocal in here is pretty awesome.
Cindy's.
Cindy.
Yeah.
I was actually, after I listened to it and then went and saw it, I was sure that some of that great singing was going to prove to be Kate. When I saw the video, so I was very surprised that it really isn't, that she handles everything by herself.
Yeah. I wasn't aware of Cindy's vocal prowess either until this song, and I do agree it's a tremendous vocal. I don't know. I probably think of a couple that might be better, but I'm not going to have that argument now.
The notes that she has to hit, that power, is really amazing to me. I saw them in concert. It was them, Berlin, and Tears for Fears. I saw them 3 years ago. And they played this song, and it was very clear that Cindy was lip syncing primarily to a backing track, which doesn't surprise me, because who in their 60s can hit these notes?
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
Yeah.
That's disappointing.
But I was looking on YouTube, and there's a clip of her singing this song live in London a few years back, and it's very live. And she struggles a little bit, but it is so admirable. She does far better than anyone in her situation should have a right to do, nailing this song. It can't be easy to hit those notes, but she did it. So I was really impressed. I wondered if it was one of those things where they just lip sync to a backing track, and maybe they do most of the times depending on how she's feeling, but she nailed it in this one YouTube video that I saw.
I would respect her way more for going out trying, even if she hit like half the notes poorly. That's so much more respectable than lip syncing in a concert situation.
I should clarify. I think she was singing over, I should say, to the Girl from Ipanema Goes to Greenland part with the big soaring vocal.
Okay.
The verses, she was singing regularly.
Okay.
It's just hitting those notes.
All right, I gotcha.
So I think this is an incredible song. It has such a funky bass line.
Oh, yeah.
Such excellent guitar work. My favorite part is those descending notes. And if I knew what they were called technically, I would say it. But, the song kind of builds, and then it does this over and over. And every time it does it, it just sends me shivers. I love it so much.
The rhythm section of the song has a great sound to it. The drums and the bass.
It's chugging along, and it goes so well with the video, and they're kind of chugging across the screen in a line.
I think that's because of the additional production by Mr. Shep Pettibone that sounds so good. Did you see that he did some work on this one?
I did. However, I only saw that he did a remixed version of this. I don't know that he did this version. In fact, I should say this album was produced by Tony Mansfield.
No kidding. All right.
Yes. And you guys love him. Zavaha.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. You know what I hear in this song?
Summer?
The sound of 1986.
Is that good or bad?
Well, it's good. It's when I heard and I didn't look it up. When I was just when I first watched the video, not having any knowledge of the song or where it landed in their discography, because they look crazy all the time. So it wasn't like I could tell by their outfits what year they were from. But I said, this sounds like, like late 86 or maybe early 87. It just has that, I don't know, it has that feel to it to me. And that's not a bad thing. It's just me placing it in the time period and where it was actually. So.
Well,
see, to me, it sort of transcends. Sorry, Colby, to cut you off.
No worries.
To me, it sounds fresher and even punchier. I don't think it sounds, talk about the assembly, to me sounds like 1980, whatever that was, which is fine. We're all here talking because we love the sound of the 80s new wave. That's fine. Our ears are tuned to that. But I think this song sort of transcends. I think you could play it today to people and it wouldn't be that, that big a shock to their system. That's just me though. Colby, what were you going to say?
I was going to be the voice of dissent.
Okay.
Oh, no.
What?
Oh, no.
Never mind.
This is good. good.
Yeah,
we need some dissent.
I mean, the B-52's obviously a huge part of the 80s, particularly new wave music, but like it's never reached me. I've never been appreciative. I can understand there's musicianship going on here, and I can appreciate parts of the whole, but when you put it all together, it just bothers me. It's just like this redundant mess, and I just have never been able to make my peace with anything that they've ever produced. It's just never really been my bag. And I listened to this song and I was like, oh yeah, the very first time that she hits that, I'm like, that's impressive. And then they do it again and again. And I'm just like, okay, I'm done with it. I'm done. So it's just nothing that they've ever made really made an impact on me, just as a miss.
So just taking it one step further from what John said about, he appreciates songs that, that you can kind of identify with or that have some kind of a message or a, musical connection. And, that definitely seems to be the case with you here.
Oh, yeah.
To maybe even a greater extent because...
And like even just trying to harp in on just the energy of the B-52's, like back in like the late 80s, early 90s, would I have been like, oh, this is crap? No, I would have just rolled with it. But when I'm just listening to the song, trying to appreciate it, it's hard. It's just hard for me.
Yeah, see, I feel that way about almost every other piece of music they've ever put out there. That's why I thought this song was a little bit different, and why I chose this one specifically, because I'm with you. I mean, I think we're all kind of on the same page about the B-52s. It's sort of a party joke thing that we don't always get. But I thought it was, if you isolate this song, it doesn't have, now the video is another story, but the song itself doesn't necessarily have the jokey, I mean, the lyrics are sort of nonsensical, but the musicianship behind it all, the vibe of it all is so good to me that
I agree with that.
It's not quite the novelty rock stuff that they normally do.
No, I mean, other than the title and the video. But if you took this song, if you had someone that never heard of the B-52's, didn't know anything about them, never saw them before, and you played them this song, this would be like probably the worst introduction you could give them to the band, because it is not like anything else that they've done that I know of. So I think it is sort of like you were saying, almost like a one-off.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I know we are sort of not bad-mouthing, but we're kind of slagging off the novelty aspect of the band. However, I have in my notes here, this is a really great song, one of the best songs I've ever heard from them. Yeah. However, you have Fred Schneider. Use him. And
Use
I don't
him
know
for
even,
what?
Even though,
where would you have fit him in?
Well, here's the thing: you have to do it in a way that doesn't make any sense, like the Deadbeat Club single, which is a perfectly nice song with good singing, and then every chorus he just goes Deadbeat Club, and you're like, why did you bother to make him do that? It's interrupting the song, but because
that is part of what they are, and they're part of who they are, and.
Even though I rarely listen to the B-52's and they've never been important to me, I, for some reason, love Fred Schneider. I love his craziness, and it's just, and it's like Rome. I don't like listening to Rome because there's no Fred. But now, having said this, I think this song is way better than Rome. Okay. I could listen to this song and not mind that Fred's not there. But
I would argue that this song is good because Fred is not there.
See, I thought that's what you'd say.
Fred too.
Addition by subtraction.
Right. I'm not slamming Fred necessarily, but his voice is so specific that it's a spice or an ingredient that turns most songs onto the novelty side of the spectrum. You eliminate it, and that's what makes it sort of something different, something you could take a little bit more seriously.
Yep, I would agree. I don't miss Fred on here. I love him, but he's great in the video.
He's bizarre in the video. I think I'm realizing as we talk about this that I'm the flip side of you guys, maybe, because when I think about the B-52 songs that I like a lot, I like Channel Z and I like Cosmic Thing and Good Stuff. I like the songs.
Where he is highly
that
featured.
You, Modine? I love that song.
Oh, yeah.
So I think I like the crazy ones.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
But having said that, like I said, this is one of the best B-52 songs I've ever heard.
Yeah, I would agree.
Good. Thank you.
So we've kind of keep talking about the video. Yeah. Do we want to really talk about the video?
Let's tackle it.
So it just couldn't be more B-52s than what it is. It's clearly the four of them being told or directed to just do your thing. That thing you guys do, just do that in front of this green screen, and we'll put in some odd images behind it.
Yeah.
And they do, they wear their funny outfits. At one point near the end, Keith Strickland's dancing in a Santa Claus suit.
Yes.
They've got odd dance moves. Cindy sings for a little while with a hat of fruit made out of fruit, like Esther Williams. It's all so strange. My favorite part is when, for no good reason, they start showing a dog, and then suddenly Fred's head with sunglasses gets transposed over the top of the dog.
I know.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part.
I remember saying to myself, what is the point of that?
I don't know.
I like the toast, too. They make a piece of toast, and then Kate starts eating the toast.
Yes.
But then the other things I like about it, well, other things that are notable, I guess I should say, there are these big, huge feet that come down a couple of times. They just like stomp. And that totally makes me think of Monty Python. Every time I see those feet come down, I just think of Monty Python. Then one other thing I noticed on the comments on YouTube about this video that it seems like maybe Kate Pearson invented dabbing 32 years earlier or something. Because they're on 2:16 in the video. There's some moves there that really do look a lot like dabbing.
They do. Yeah, it's just nonsensical weirdness, but it's what they do, and, you know, some might say it's what they do best. The late Ricky Wilson does show up a couple of times. His face is in a sun, I believe, at one point.
Yep.
The one thing I will say about this is, you know, the band is known for being goofy and party and funny and everything. It couldn't have been easy, maybe, to perform or film that video if you're still mourning the loss of your brother and bandmate and friend, you know.
Right.
But that doesn't stop them from pulling out fruit hats and, you know, weird wigs and anyway, it's just so them. But I just think that's a really great song that I can put on a loop and never get sick of.
Did you ever see the movie Zardoz?
No, I've never even heard of this.
It's
You
like,
should probably keep it that way.
it's an early 70s Sean Connery science fiction movie that's so bizarre, but there's this giant metal floating head that flies around from place to place, and that's what Kate's head reminds me of in this video with her huge hair. As soon as I saw her, I thought of Zardoz.
Wow.
Well, I think that's side one of our mixtape, guys.
It is. Yeah. More songs. That's good.
So we hope you enjoyed our selections and enjoyed maybe learning a little bit about the bands.
Is there any way for listeners to like vote on who won side one?
Yeah, I was actually going to do that because
we know you're going to lose.
Wait.
Man.
So John, I have to.
Sarah might win.
Did you talk to Brian about this already?
No.
Wow.
No.
Okay, so just great minds think alike.
Maybe.
Because you already had that idea, Brian.
Yeah, because you can do those
About
polls and stuff on Twitter and Facebook, and 4 is the limit of songs or choices you can make in the poll. So I thought I could do that. My only hesitation is I would hate to deal with, like, you know, we do this episode and we have fun and we put it out there, and then a week later 2 people have voted.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could handle that, but I am going to do it. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we just don't have to mention it.
We have
Yeah.
we have
Well,
the
it
star
slipped our
power.
mind.
We have star power with us this time, though.
That's a good point. So maybe we'll get a
don't
better
know.
turnout than last time.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So if you enjoyed the mixtape episode, if you like talking about these bands, or you have any information that you feel that we missed that we should know about, there's going to be an inevitable post on Facebook sharing the episode. Feel free to chime in there. You can we'll all see those, or you can reach out to us via email. I think we're at permrecordpodcast@mail.com.
Right.
John has a website. What's your website, John?
It's thehustle.podbean.com. I usually just tell people to find us on Facebook as well, and you can send me messages on there. If there's someone from a band that you loved from the 70s, 80s, 90s that you just haven't heard from for a long time, let me know, and I'll see if I can track those people down, and we'll find out how they pay their bills.
Very cool. And I've said numerous times on here that people should check out your show, and so I'll reiterate that now. And if you've managed to find our podcast, wherever you're finding it, you can find John's there too, because he's, I'm sure, done a better job at getting listed on different directories and things than we did. So search for The Hustle, and it's a nice yellow logo.
Yep. It's really
That's
good.
what you want to listen to. So
That's right.
There's about 200 episodes. Go through, pick out somebody that you already love, listen to it, and then maybe go back and
See what else. Yeah.
see what else you can find out.
It's fun. You can learn a lot no matter what.
So
Very
thanks very much for joining us for the discussion today, John. We appreciate it a lot.
Thank you guys for having me.
And we will see you in a week's time as we flip the tape and do another 4 songs for our summer mixtape.
Sounds good.
Colby, thanks for sitting in with us as well.
Always a pleasure.
It's always fun to have you here. I'm interested to get your take next week on my college roommate.
Oh, yeah.
All right, everyone. Well, thanks very much for listening. We'll talk to you soon.
Across the nation, you know you can't stop it when they start to play. You gotta get out of the way. The politics of dancing, the politics of feeling good, the politics of moving. Is this message understood? The politics of dancing. say